Welcome back to Dirty 20, everybody. Today we continue with our series on the characters of the Forgotten Realms, as we talk about the Berserker warrior Minsc and his trusty companion Boo, the miniature giant space hamster. That's right, you heard me correctly. Let's get on with the show. Now, Minsc and Boo have been a staple of the Baldur's Gate series of video games, first appearing in Baldur's Gate as a potential companion for the player. He became an instant hit with this outlandish personality and his interactions with his animal companion, Boo.
A den of stinking evil. Cover your nose, Boo. We will leave no crevice untouched!
Now, Minsc follows a great tradition that has existed in D&D since the very, very first editions. You see it with Gary Gygax, the creator of D&D, Ed Greenwood, the creator of the Forgotten Realms, and so many other creatives who would play campaigns with their friends, and those characters would end up in the game. And now many of them are legends like Elminster, Mordenkainen, and Minsc. The character was originally created by Cameron Topher years before the Baldur's Gate game, and in fact a lot of the characters and villains in the first Baldur's Gate came out of a pen and paper game that they were playing with the lead designer, James Ohlen. Now, Minsc's story is inexorably linked to Boo. He is, according to Minsc at least, a miniature giant space hamster, which A, sounds amazing, and B, is actually a thing. In the past, we've talked about the campaign setting of Spelljammer. If you haven't seen that video, please do check it out because it is probably my favorite campaign setting. I know I say that every time I talk about a campaign setting, but really, it's just really cool. But one of the things that I mentioned in that video is that Spelljammer has a little bit of a kind of hurdle in that it has a fair amount of goofiness and a little bit of silliness to it. And, you know, giant space hamsters is one of those things. But here we have this concept for a character. It's an animal companion, and as you'll see later, there's nothing special to it necessarily. Minsc just says that it's a baby giant space hamster. But it has roots in, you know, canon. It's part of the game. But in the way that it's used, it's just so much fun. By the way, massive shout out to the voice actor who played Minsc in all of the Baldur's Gate games, Jim Cummings. He absolutely crushed it.
Butt kicking, for goodness! Make way, evil! I'm armed to the teeth and pecking a hamster!
He plays him with like kind of innocence, but still being a fearsome warrior. I really enjoy it.
No finer a place to die than the battlefield.
Minsc and Boo represent that fantastic element of D&D, which I don't think when you're looking at it from outside you really kind of see, and that's just the joyous fun. And to illustrate this, I really recommend that you go out and you check out The Descent, which was a live play when they were releasing Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus, and you have the great Jim Zub, who is a comic book writer and has written loads of comic book series with Minsc in it, including Legends of Baldur's Gate and Shadows of the Vampire, where he actually like faces off against Strahd von Zarovich. But Jim Zub cosplays and plays the character in the one shot that they show in the live stream of Minsc. And next to him is Matt Mercer, who is the amazing DM of Critical Role, the smash hit live play, who actually recently they finished their second campaign. And they're not too far away from releasing their Amazon animated series, which I'm really excited about. Anyway, so Matt Mercer plays Boo. and he just plays it so wonderfully, and it's so much fun, and just everything about it is what, one of the elements that I really, really enjoy about playing Dungeons and Dragons, and that is just having fun in the storytelling elements. And I think this is what Minsc and Boo can kind of teach us. We've talked a little bit about this in our review of the Acquisitions Inc. book that was released a couple of years ago, and this idea of comedy. If we play our dark stories that are grim and full of despair and darkness, that can get old really quickly. And having a release, moments of levity and comedy, can really actually make the darkness much more impactful in your stories. By the same token, though, if Minsc and Boo are these kind of purely, comic relief silliness, you're not going to want to include them in your campaign for very long, maybe an encounter or a session, or you're not going to want to use them very often because it's just going to be, these guys again. Which brings me to the darker elements of Minsc. Spoilers for Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 as we go forward. When you first meet Minsc in Baldur's Gate, in the first outing of the video game, he is looking for help to rescue the person who he has been sworn to protect, Dinahir. She's a young witch, and it's all a part of this thing called the Degema, where the people of where Minsc is from have a kind of rite of passage that they have to go through. And as I say, when you first meet him, he's trying to recruit your help to rescue her because she's been kidnapped by gnolls. Now, a lot of things happen. By the end of the second game, Dinahir is killed. And this is a huge failure for Minsc, and it kind of marks him for the rest of his life. All of his adventures going forward, he really struggles with the idea of failure, and he feels like a failure very often. Now this, I think, just makes him much more interesting. I can imagine using him in a campaign at his lowest point, perhaps taken to drink, talking to his pet hamster, his days of glory kind of long forgotten, and building an adventure around the fact that the heroes need this faded legend's help. I do also really like that to kind of solve the age thing, because he's a human, right? So technically he first appeared in the late 1300s according to their timeline, but now they're in the late 1400s. So technically he should be dead, or at least very, very old. But instead, the way they did it was, so a statue to the ranger was put up in Baldur's Gate, and it's a statue of Minsc cupping Boo in his hand. And for years it became like a location in Baldur's Gate, very famous, but it turned out that he was actually under a petrification spell, and it was actually him and Boo, and he managed to get out of it. But I really like that. In terms of stats, there is a great book you can find on the DM's Guild called Heroes of Baldur's Gate. Link in the description below. Here you will find actually much more content than you would in, for example, Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus, where you begin that adventure in the city of Baldur's Gate. Now, this book was written by James Ohlen, who, as I mentioned earlier, DM'd the campaign where Minsc and a lot of the other heroes and villains first kind of appeared, that ended up in the game Baldur's Gate. So this book has lots of pedigree. There's also an adventure for 4 to 6 level 1 characters, which by the end of it, it aims to get those characters up to about level 6. But in the adventure, you actually get to meet Minsc and Boo, and there's a stat block in the book, so let's take a quick look at it. On page 138, you can see you have Minsc the Berserker warrior from the nation of Rashamen in the Far East, and you have his stats here. Now, an important thing to know here is that this is a very young Minsc, still on his Degema, because Denehir is actually also one of the characters in the book. But looking at him, CR7, 104 hit points, and a decent stat line tells me he's a pretty formidable warrior, but not the legend that he will one day become. Now, I really like this. As we've discussed in the past, including some of these legendary characters of the Forgotten Realms in your campaign can be really tricky. They tend to be really overpowered. And here you're getting a guy who is still a useful NPC and, but he won't necessarily wipe the floor with the PCs if they get into a scrap. And he also won't kind of overshadow the players when they face, foes who, against them, they're dangerous. But for Minsc, it would just be like, wiping the floor with them. So I really like that they've kept him at a, CR7. And Boo is a hamster. But actually, he can be quite helpful because he can't really attack anyone. He's got decent perception related to smell, which is good because Minsc wisdom is not great. He can also gnaw through ropes. So if you get caught, or if Minsc gets caught, he can actually come and help save you. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I would be tempted to take these stat blocks and use them to tell the story of an aging Minsc. I think it works with the CR7 because, he's not as powerful as he once was. Maybe you can tweak a couple of things. And I would definitely take inspiration from the awesome anime on Netflix, Yasuke. But I really do recommend this book wholeheartedly. There we have it. Thank you so much for watching as always. Please let us know in the comments what you think about Minsc and Boo. Would you use them in your campaign? How would you go about it? Like, subscribe, share this with your friends, and as always, keep slaying. If you've enjoyed this content, then please smash that like button, subscribe, share this around online, and come and visit our website, www.lavictoriaproductions.com, to see all our past episodes, as well as our blog posts and all the stuff that we're currently working on at La Victoria Productions. Why not reach out to us and tell us what you think of our videos? You can reach us on Twitter. @MouthLaVictoria is our producer. We are also on Instagram. I am EnanoLVP, and our producer is Jazzy J Cherot. We're also La Victoria Productions on Facebook and LinkedIn. Come on by and let us know what you think.